My 6-year-old daughter seems generally very happy and content. Each night before bed, we speak gratitude for the things in our lives, and we pray to God, to Guru, to our angels, etc., for protection and for sourcing during the night. We generally pray before eating our meals as well. Are there any other particular spiritual practices that you recommend that are important to incorporate into daily life while raising a child of this particular age? That's a really good question, and I'd like to applaud you for the things you are doing. And yes, there are definitely a few more things that you could add in don't cost anything, and they're not too taxing and not too demanding on a child of that age. Your child is 6, but let's call it like in that 5 to 9 range, or young children. Period. Again, you need to use discernment as the age is changing, like how much can be asked of them or expected of them. But a few things that I'll point out that you can consider adding to your daily regimen. One is beginning your day with a morning prayer as well. You talk about ending your day. Beginning your day with prayer is just as important, if not even more important, because that's when you get sourced, connected. So that's a really good practice to start. And it does not have to be, again, you have a small child, it doesn't have to be an hour meditation, but even just a minute or two. Saying good morning to your angels, good morning to God and Guru and to Mother Earth and to all the heavenly beings, and to say how grateful you are. Thank you for another day, dear God. Thank you for the breath in my lungs and the beating of my heart, and for another opportunity to be able to go share love and spread love in this world and to learn how to become more loving myself. Really important to teach children to start their day that way. It puts them in a more positive frame of mind. It helps them release whatever they might be carrying. And so, as I'm saying it for children, it's also critically important for adults to start their day that way too. A lot of people wake up and they leap out of bed and they're already in chaos and frenzy. I'm going to be late for work and this and that, and their Rolodex is going. And, if you don't have time or don't want to make time for an hour meditation or even a 30-minute one, there's nothing stopping every human being on the planet from 3 to 5 minutes just to do a few deep breaths and have a little prayer of gratitude and just to connect and just, just chill for a minute, get sourced and just redirect and connect your consciousness, align your consciousness with a better way of being. So that's really important to teach your children that habit. You already have the evening one, your evening prayers to your guides and heavenly beings and your gratitude. Another thing that's really important and very, very, very valuable to inculcate with children at an early age is the importance of service, of charitable work, volunteering. And again, you want to have perspective and discernment of how much, you're going to incorporate into the child's life at what age. But and then with the smaller children, it's very important you're doing it with them too. Don't just assign it as a task, like a taskmaster, but you'd be doing it with them, demonstrating it, modeling it, and that way it can be interactive and you can share and share your experience and talk about it while you're doing it. So the importance of service is really, really good, whether it be at a hospital, in a hospice, in a schoolyard, at the wherever, at a church, at a charitable event, or a doling station on a meal, helping, going to an orphanage, and make it so that it's like an adventure and an outing. Don't make it all didactic about principles. Make it just like when you take the child to the park. This is just something else that we do, and it becomes part of your life. So the children don't separate it as something didactic, something you're teaching them. It's more something just you're doing as a natural way of being. And they say, oh, this is something that we do. It's really important. And we're going to go help these people because they need help. And we're very lucky that we either have food in a house and we're helping people who are homeless, or that we, our bodies are functioning, and we're helping people who might have been born with some crippling condition. And so it really just helps deepen people in the experience of, again, more gratitude, more connection, and it gives people a deeper sense of self and a deeper sense of connectedness and the interrelatedness of species, of of people and an appreciation for people, and it helps engender and inculcate unconditional love and non-judgment as you expose children. That's another thing, getting onto that subject, exposing your children to the different facets of society and culture and humanity, especially now more than ever. You know, going back 100 years, we did not have the transportation we have. We did not have internet. We did not have global communication. And so people living in nucleic, isolated areas did not have the detrimental impact that it can today when parents choose to isolate their children from other cultures, other religions, other races, other, whatever. So exposing your children to that, again, you don't have to be fanatical about it, but it's really, really healthy and important because we have a homogenized global culture right now that didn't exist 100 years ago. It was very isolated and sequestered and sectioned off, cordoned off, and now we have a homogenized global planet and global family. And so it's really important to let your children be exposed to all colors, all races, all religions, all persuasions, so they can learn to live in a society like that, and they grow up without the kinds of judgments and prejudices that so many people, even as young as their 30s and older, had growing up. The children nowadays, it's a different walk of life, so you really help society and culture, the global culture, a lot by exposing your children to all walks of life like that. And yet another thing to weave into your children's lives, hitting 4 or 5 of the big topics here. Another point, I lost count of exactly how many, but I'm at 4 or 5 already. Another really important one with young children is their exposure to and interaction with animals. Very, very critically important. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the wild. It can be, domestic. It can be farm animals. It can be household pets, but it can be just what's in your surroundings in nature. But expose your children to animals and teach them about animals and learn about animals and let them be around them physically. They don't necessarily have to be touching them, but if they can do that too, all the better. Animals are great teachers, and most animal species, honor the divine laws way more than most humans do. So that is a silent teaching that's really powerful for children. And there's also a silent and sometimes not so silent communication that animals have with their own kingdoms and with the human kingdom, that children, younger children, are far more adept than most adults. And so you're helping them develop their higher faculties. They're what people call paranormal abilities, but they're actually not paranormal. They're quite normal. They're just undeveloped. It's a bit of a misnomer. But that exposing your children to animals will help develop their higher faculties. And again, everything I've said now about, your question is about small children, every single word that I've said applies to every human on the planet, applies to adults equally. So these 4 or 5 points are also the most powerful things all adults can be doing as well to help themselves on their journey into God realization and their divining process of becoming pure unconditional love. So to wrap it all up, those are the things that are important to weave into your child's life that will really, really facilitate and accelerate the child's development and allow it to happen in a very healthy, easy, grounded way, and will offset some of the tainted ways that modern society is, quote, raising children through the overindulgence in violence, in weaponry, in prejudice, in technology and gaming and all kinds of things that are so out of balance. You implement more and more of the things I'm describing, and that'll keep your children very grounded and sourced while they have to deal with a lot of this stuff that's coming at them through schools and peers and circles of friends. Your kids will really have a strong anchor and a much stronger place of sourcing if you weave a lot of this in when they're young. And being in nature too. I talk about animals, but also being in nature. Now, if you grow up in a city and you don't have the means to get out into nature very often, you can still do it by taking them to the green belts, to the city parks. There's no excuse. Every city in the world has parks and gardens. So you can't say, oh, we don't live in the country, we don't have money to get there, and I have no car. Then go to the city parks. I lived in Midtown Manhattan for 3 years, and I was in Central Park as often as I could be, or in Washington Square Park. Just sit there under the trees, watch the birds, watch life go by, and breathe in the smell of cut grass, and just watch the squirrels running around. That is the same interaction. You don't have to drive 100 miles and rent an expensive car. Don't make excuses for robbing yourself and your children. And remember, those things, like I said, that you're asking about your child, they're important for you too as the parent. So getting out in nature is critically important for everybody. And if you're in the city, just go to the city parks and gardens. You'll get the same blessing. And if you can get out in nature, way out in nature, then do that too.